Welcome to this talk sponsored by Cheers called I Want to Be an Architect. My name is Diego del Cerro and I'd like to walk you through my experience being an architect. But first, let me tell you who I am. Basically, I'm an IT nerd imported from Argentina. I've been living in New Zealand for the last 4 years. I have over 10 years of experience as an IT architect. Before I was a tech lead and a senior dev, and I was extremely lucky to work in different architecture roles like information, enterprise, product, solution, infrastructure, and technology architect for multinational companies in several industries like banks, telecommunication, and technology companies. I'm also a system engineer with a master degree in management of technology and telecommunication companies. So let's have a chat about becoming an IT architect and some tips that helped me in my own experience and my career. We have been talking about becoming an IT architect, but we haven't defined what an IT architect is. An IT architect is a role within an IT team or structure that makes decisions and recommendations of solutions to problems that are about the design and evolution of components of a system. And please don't consider the components just the hardware and software part. The human part of a system is really important as well. And how these components interact to each other based on requirements that might be functional and non-functionals and restrictions. In practice, as an IT architect, you will need to use many hats to solve different problems. For example, for some projects or for some solutions, you will need to act as a tech lead, recommending technology patterns or coding practices for a team. Or in other projects, you will need to be like a project manager, negotiating the scope of the solution with the stakeholders. Your own experience and capability to learn new abilities will be challenged, as well as your resilience and patience, especially when things do not go the way you expected and solutions cannot be implemented or they don't want to be implemented as you designed it. However, being an IT architect does not mean you will lose contact with code. This is a misconception of many people. That is why many architects define themselves as hands-on or hands-off. It depends on the scope and domain of your role. Hand on hand with the scope is the accountability of an IT architect. Not every context of work is the same, and your role might be more or less accountable of technical decisions. You might be focused on delivery. That means a hands-on architect with being the leader of a team and taking a solution from the design to the implementation. Or you might be just an advisor, a hands-off architect working with the management, educating other teams, and recommending solutions on big scale that you cannot implement alone. Then there is the jack of all trades, which jumps from one accountability scope to the other. And in some projects you can be an advisor, and in other ones you are the main driver and the delivery force of that project. There is a very good page about what an information architect is in New Zealand. This is from the New Zealand Tertiary Education Commission, and you can access it by the link I put there in Career Government New Zealand. So it's really good because it analyzes the market in New Zealand, the training that you can access to. They recommend 3 to 5 years of training to achieve this role. You could have less than that depending on your experience, and depending on the position might be harder or easier to access. Then the job opportunities are really good at the moment in New Zealand, and the pay is really good as well. There are different types of architects. You might have seen advertisements in LinkedIn, Seek, or Tremi asking for an application architect, a solution architect, enterprise data, infrastructure, and different words you could put before architect. What they mean is that you will be working in a different domain of knowledge and making decisions and solutions in that domain. For this presentation, we will focus on the technical, solution, enterprise, and information architecture roles, which I think they are clearly different to each other. We are going to define them based on the skills for the job. We will group those skills in three major groups, which are communication, how well you communicate with other people, negotiating, teaching, writing. This seems easy, but it's not. It's really, really hard. Then the technical expertise, which probably is near to your comfort zone, especially if you are coming from a technical role like developer or infrastructure or any technical role. That is mainly coding, DevOps knowledge, design knowledge of design patterns and that kind of stuff. Project management, which is how to manage and track stakeholder scope creeping, requirements, and risks. And we will leave the people management side out of the architecture definition because being an architect doesn't mean that you will have people in charge. You might, but it's not something that you need. A very good and extensive analysis on the skills for different architecture roles can be found in that link that is for the Open Forum TOGAF 9. There they define the different skills for every role in a high level of detail. The technical architect is the closest architect to the execution of solutions. You will be designing a solution that you might implement, or your team will implement, or you are really close to the implementation for controlling and auditing that solution. So you might be an application architect which scope of solutions is one application only, or you might be a Java or .NET architect making standards for all the solutions in the company. You could be an infrastructure architect with a certain budget that has to design all the infrastructure for achieving certain requirements of availability. Now, in this context, you should be really, really comfortable. It's the technical architect's main weapon is the technical expertise. You will be making decisions in your comfort zone, or what should be your comfort zone. Communication is not as important, as the same as project management. There might be people in the company that is better than you to do this, and you will rely on them to communicate your decisions. If you are good with that, then you can communicate yourself, but your primary weapon, as we mentioned, is the technical expertise, and that's why they need you. The solution architect is the most balanced of all the architects. You will act as the right hand of a project, a program, or portfolio manager. Your scope will be normally more than one application. You could have one application as your scope for a solution, but ideally you will have a solution that is a project cross-cutting different applications in the company. You might be exposed and out of your comfort zone. You might be making a design for an application written in ABAP, R, Erlang, or Fox Pro. So yeah, could be really out of your comfort zone. You will need to feel comfortable communicating, presenting your ideas to other people. So you need more communication than a technical architect. And project management are kind of key. You need to know the scope of your solutions and how to manage scope creeping, risk, requirements, and negotiating with stakeholders. So yeah, they are kind of important for a solution architect. An enterprise architect is a role that considers the company's assets, considering that software and hardware, and all the structures and organization chart and sociograms, the process and business strategy as a whole. So they have to consider all of these in order to create a technological strategy to support the business. So they are making solutions to strategic problems. All the solutions they design are long-living and they are across many applications, and not only applications, also processes. As an enterprise architect, your focus will be business knowledge. That will be your expertise. It might not be technical. You can have technical knowledge, and it's good always to have knowledge about a little bit of everything. But business knowledge is the most important here. What the company does, how it makes money, what are the processes, how can it improve, what could we purchase or what could be developed in order to improve those business processes. So your communication skills are going to be your main weapon here. How you present, how you educate other people that are not as technical as you, or they don't know the business as you know it. And project management skills are important as well. They are not as strong as other roles, but it's always important to manage a scope correctly and all the risks. Mainly, you will be making decisions out of your comfort zone because there are so many areas. You might be making a design that is affecting revenue assurance and collection, or how you are doing BI in the company, but your technical expertise is front end. So these roles are normally hands-off code, and sometimes they are frustrating for people that are more technical. I've seen many people not enduring this type of roles if they are too technical and moving more to a technical architecture or solution architecture role. They are super fun, and you learn about the business industry a lot, and you have the chance to work with crazy frameworks and see a lot of different providers and service providers. So they are really, really fun, but normally they are hands-off code. The information architect is probably the most difficult to define. Sometimes it's really confusing. Some people refer to as the person who is designing the knowledge management and how to master the data. They are really important, especially on legal, when there are legal documents that you need to manage, the life cycle of data, the archiving of data, the hot and cold access to data. And also how to find data and how it's structured. Other people refer them as integration architects, like kind of an enterprise architect which is modeling the domain entities. They use a lot of frameworks for that, like DAMA, SID, UEL. They are very specific to the industry. In other cases, they are just data architects, but those are types of technical architects. So depending on the job position, you might see the description of one of those three. If in the first two options, that is how we are going to define more an information architect, you will need communication. That will be key. You will be working with people that probably don't know much about the frameworks you work with and why you are doing what you are doing. Then your technical expertise is really important. You have to be the master of that domain. You need to know the frameworks really, really well and apply them to the business. And then your project management skills are also important, as usual, managing scope creeping, managing stakeholders. Stakeholders are really important here. So yeah, that will be an information architect. Of course, there are other titles architects can have, like product architect, business architect, and security architect. It all depends on your scope and domain. A product architect it could be like a solution architect or like an enterprise architect for a specific product. Then a business architect arguably is not an IT architect. It's more business strategy, more than technology strategy. And a security architect is specialized on security. The same as the security architect, you can have other type of architects that are really specific to the domain. You might be wondering what is the path to be an architect. So based on my experience, I've seen people coming from this path that I will describe. However, I've seen architects coming from many different positions through my years of experience. So technical architects, their domain of knowledge is the technical aspect, and they need to be an expert on that domain. Your domain could be application development on a certain technology like Java, .NET, C#, or JavaScript. So you could come from being a developer to a senior developer, then a technical lead, and then a technical architect. You could jump from senior developer to technical architect. It would be hard though to jump from junior developer or semi-senior developer to technical architect because you will need to get more expertise in your area. Then on the engineering side, you could be a network engineer or an operation engineer and then change to DevOps or an infrastructure lead, and then you jump to technical lead or you jump directly to technical architect. The same with database administrators. They could be like leads on that side, they could move to DevOps, and then they go to be a technical architect on the data side. For a solution architect, you might come from the technical architect path, that is having experience on a certain domain, and you come from operations or from being a developer, or you could also come from being a product analyst, and then you are a product specialist. For example, someone that is working with SAP or Civil or just a product that needs configuration rather than development or engineering and administration. In that case, you might be a solution architect very specific to that product. If not, then you might come from the expertise of being a developer or an engineer. Then you adapt the communication skills and the project management skills that you need, and you could become a solution architect. Remember, you could come from anywhere, but this is based on my experience. The path to being an enterprise architect is a little complex. So we are leaving out all the semi-senior and junior positions, and we are focusing now on specialization on a certain business part or product part. So you might come from a business analyst or a business specialist area or role. You could have also a technical expertise, and then you will need to develop a lot of communication skills, a little bit or a good portion of project management skills as well. You will feel out of your comfort zone if you come from a technical side because you need to develop business knowledge. Business analysts will feel a lot more comfortable on that, but then if it is exposed to a technical solution or to a part that requires technical knowledge, it will be out of the comfort zone. So enterprise architects need at least 1 year before they are comfortable in their positions. You have to consider that because many people could be frustrated during the first year. As we mentioned before, the information architect position is a little special and could be interpreted in different ways. one of the paths is being coming from the developer or the solution architect position, leading towards the enterprise architecture domain, but more on the data side and making solutions about the master data management. So you end up being an information architect, or at least having the skills of an information architect. Then you might come from the product analyst and product specialist path, and that product is specific for managing information and modeling the domain entities, and you end up as an information architect. Then as a business analyst, the same, you will be working with a lot of entities, processes, and that will help you to be a good information architect. And then you might come from the knowledge management specialization, and you end up in information architect. You can also be an enterprise architect that is focused on the domain entities modeling and processes. You will have the skills of an information architect if that's the case. So hopefully by now you have some understanding of what is an architect and the different types, and you decided that yes, you want to be an IT architect. Okay, let's talk about some tips that helped me through my career for each of the different positions. Technical architects are the master of their domain, so what you're looking for is a specialization. If you're looking for a position like infrastructure architect, you might want to certify in a certain technology. If you want general knowledge about DevOps, a link that helped me a lot was DevOps Bookmarks. It points to different links to Kubernetes, Docker, Puppet, Chef, and anything you need to know about DevOps. Then Cloud Guru has very good courses about AWS and Azure, and other platforms as well. They have courses to certify as well. It's really good. Then if you are a DBA or focus on data, you might want to certify in the platform you are working on, like Oracle, Postgres, or SQL Server or similar. Then learn about the data life cycle of in your business. That would be really important for an architect, a data architect. Then application architects will need to learn about design patterns and also integration patterns. Links that helped me through my career were the Microsoft Azure patterns microservices, as well as Wikipedia. Wikipedia has very good references. When you see an article, it has references, and sometimes they point to papers and very good sources. Then understanding concepts outside your domain will be important, not as important as being a master on your domain, but you need to understand different concepts of architecture. So if you follow the lessons on Developer to Architect from Mark Richards, they are really good. They are really easy to understand. General architecture lessons are the recommended one here for a technical architect. Then if you can learn about architecture perspectives and how to document, like describe it in TOGAF, in the IEEE standards and the 4+1 model, that would be really important. Then something extremely important for application architects would be to manage technical debt and communicate that effectively. So you will need to learn the Martin Fowler's Tech Debt Quadrant and how to explain that to other people. It's good to listen to Steve McConnell's explanation about technical debt. There is another concept called technical inflation as well that you might want to visit and to learn about. Then look for tools like SonarQube, which could make your job easier. They have reports on technical debt, and they are really easy to understand as well. As we mentioned before, the solution architect is the most balanced one. So you need technical expertise, the same as technical architects, or maybe not as strong as a technical architect, but all the recommendations for technical architects still apply here. Then you will need to improve your communication and project management skills. I would recommend you to read out Prince and PMI methodologies if you want to specialize, or read about one. You don't need both. They talk about the same, that is being an effective project manager. My main takeaways of these methodologies are scope management, how to avoid scope creeping or identify that, the estimation of work using WBS, especially on large solutions, risk management and stakeholder management. When designing large solutions, you might not have an agile focus. So you won't have a user story, your sponsors are harder to find, and the work breakdown structure might be needed because it's across many different teams and many different pods. So it cannot be managed as an agile way. However, Prince and PMI has some methodologies specific to agile. So yeah, that would be my main recommendation on that side. Then learn about Moscow list, non-functional requirements, and architectural drivers, which will be the main drivers for shaping the solution and the architecture. Non-functional requirement, like, okay, we need something that is more or less reliable, or it has to be portable, might change your architecture completely. Then read tips about making effective presentation and effective communication, because you might be doing more than a technical architect. And learn how to negotiate. At this point, you might be negotiating requirements and scope. So Getting to Yes is a really good book that I would recommend anyone. So if you can, just go and check that one. Enterprise architects require more business knowledge and communication than technical knowledge. However, reading about integration patterns, as you will see the company as a whole, and that involves many, many applications that integrate to each other, it will be a recommended thing to learn and to read about. So we talk about microservices I/O for technical architects, Azure patterns, the Wikipedia references, and I would include here enterprise integration patterns. It's old, but is still good, especially on queue integration, all event-driven architecture integrations. You will need to learn about SOA, service-oriented architecture, and definitely you will need to go through the page of Mark Richards, that is developer to architect. Then it's not the very first thing that you will have to learn, to be honest. It's interesting how not many architects use these methodologies. They provide good scaffolding and fill the gaps when you don't know about something in particular. They have very good methodologies. So TOGAF, DODAF, FIAF are frameworks, different frameworks for managing architecture, establishing an architecture team, how it evolves, the architecture of the overall company, how to register the assets. So just take a look on that. It's not going to be the first thing you are going to read, but it's good anyway. Then, same as solution architects, improve your communication skills and project management skills. For an enterprise architect, it's really important to familiarize with big consultant companies' publications like Gartner, Magic Quadrant, and Hype Cycles, especially if you are evaluating service providers and different technology. Then Forrester Waves and ThoughtWorks. They have a very good way of presenting technology for people that might not understand it really, really well. So it's really good to see them and take ideas from them. Or just presenting that, because they are really, really good support for your presentation. Then, depending on the industry domain that you are working on, you might need to learn a specific framework like ETOM, or like ETOM is from TM Forum. It's for telecommunication companies, the same as SID and the same as TAM. But there might be others, like if you are in a logistics company, you might need to understand UEL. So yeah, all depends on the industry you are working on. Becoming an architect will take you out of your comfort zone and might expose you to unknown context. It's more than once that I've been in a meeting where I don't know anything about the applications or the technologies they are talking about, and they ask me to make a decision. So learn how to ask the proper questions and be honest when you don't know the answers. Just ask for some time to investigate. Yeah, it's good to make the proper questions. You will learn that with time and by doing effective communication courses as well. Then learn how to manage your EQ. It's very important, especially because no one talks about the frustration of being an architect, as you are not involved, especially in enterprise solution and information architecture roles. The technical architect is more hands-on, but in any hands-off role, you might be designing a solution that is not implemented or is implemented in any other different way. So be aware of that. You will be exposed to criticism as well about as when you are trying to communicate something. Maybe you don't know as much as other people, or they don't want to hear what you're saying. So learn how to manage your EQ and bring other people to your side and understand what you are trying to do. Be humble. It's really, really important to be humble on that and ask for help. Then once you're an IT architect, learn how to help your teammates and other people. Once you are an experienced architect, try to coach other people or educate them and upskill, so you can learn and train on your coaching skills that will help you to communicate even better with other people. We have been talking about what is an architect and how to become one. But if you have more questions and you want to dig deeper on this and you need help, then just get in touch with Santiago. Santiago is the managing director of Pitcheers. Pitcheers tries to help people in their career. Santiago is preparing different videos as well to help different roles. So you can contact him by email, or you can give him a call. And yeah, we hope to hear from you, and please visit pitcheers.com. Thanks so much, and I hope the best in your career. Cheers.